All right, we're gonna try this. Oops, it's gonna be in VR, so it's gonna be a little shaky, I think. All right. So instead of the Hornet today, we're gonna fly the TF-51, which is the training version of the P-51 Mustang. And we're gonna do a cold start just to show it off once. And here we are. Forgive this. I'm going to look at OBS just to make sure everything's recording correctly. Yep. Okay. Wait. Yep. Okay. So this is the P-51-ish training version. You'll notice there's no heads-up display mounted here. There's no guns or anything like that. This is the free module you get with DCS, which is also free itself. So for $0.00 and about 120 gig worth of hard drive space, you can fly this plane for free with DCS. There's the outside view. Interestingly enough, those little doors right there, if I saw a video, if you ever go to an air show and they're up and they're not in this down configuration here, that handle right there should be pulled out to release the hydraulic pressure. And I'll show you why you'd want to do that and after we get this thing started up. So we'll go over cockpit familiarity, I guess we'll start with. So obviously we have our joystick. Our rudder pedals are down here. Our throttle is here. Our RPM gauge is this guy here. And that we got our trim knobs here for aileron, rudder, and elevator trim. And just gonna put that back. We have our flaps right here. Flap knob. We have our ram air and carb heat knobs here. We have our fuel gauge for the left wing there. Fuel gauge for the right wing there. There should be a fuel gauge for the center tank. I don't know exactly where it is. And I'm in VR, so I'm really craning my neck here. I thought it was behind me, but I don't know exactly where it is. Get back in here and reset my view. Okay. So we'll start with the left panel over here. Right here we got our radiator and oil coolant. So if we put these down, which we're going to want to do while we're in the air, or while we're on the ground, and landing, and put those over there, they'll be in the open position, maximize cooling. So we'll just put those up for now. Got our landing light here, our left fluorescent lights here. These are for like lighting and on the gauges itself. We have our mixture control knob here. We already went over the throttle and RPM gauges. We have this little push to talk thing here. That's for using the radio. I don't have that mapped. And over here we have releasing of the right stores and left stores, if we have any stores. Now, obviously on this TF version, we're not going to have that. We have throttle and propeller mixture lock knobs here. Let's see what else is on the left side. That's about it. Okay, and then for obviously we have all our instrumentation up here. We'll go over right here is our supercharger switch. We can force the supercharger from auto. I can't get to the switch. but auto to forced on. If or you are running and forced on, this light here will be on. Your fuel booster, we'll want that for starting up the jet or the plane, as well as when we're taking off and landing. Oil dilution, we got our starter here. Then the primer to prime the engine before we start it. Our magnetos are here. And all of this stuff we don't need to worry about other than this knob over here is the cockpit lighting. It's daytime, so we'll have that off. For the gauges, we have miles per hour, so our indicated airspeed. We have a compass. We have a remote compass over here. And a remote because the compass is actually in the wing. And we can like set our course selection here, and that's for navigation, basically. We have a clock here as well. And our altitude, so our altimeter is here. Our slip gauge and turning indicator here. Our vertical speed indicator is here. This is, what is that one? Accelerometer. Then we have this multi-purpose gauge that does, I think it's oil temperature, oil pressure, fuel pressure. Then we have our carb heat and coolant temperature. Then over here is our manifold pressure and RPMs. And then this is our suction. So basically all these gauges work in a vacuum, and this makes sure the vacuum is good to go. This right here is, what do they call that? I don't know, it's basically your horizon line. And if we uncage it, let's see if I can do this. Really, man, this mouse is. And then do this. You can kind of see the dot is our plane, the center of our plane, and then we have our wing on the left and the wing on the right, and then the horizon line. So we'll keep that caged for now. That's it for gauges. And then over on here we have, and we'll flip these switches now, our generator and our battery. And you can kind of hear that cranking up. Over here is our oxygen flow. We don't really need to worry about any of this. We got it on auto. So we're good there. We got our crank here for our canopy, and this is a pain in the butt. Left control C should close it, but it's opening it. So just to show you that, and the adjust controls, if we do a search for canopy closing, left control and C. Opening, left shift and C. And then if we need to eject, left control, left shift and C. So I don't know what's going on with it, but if I hit left control and C, it doesn't do anything. Left shift doesn't do anything. But if I manually close it, and then left control C opens it. Left shift C opens it. Something's wrong with the game. I don't know what it is. But yeah, so there's that. And then we have a bunch of other switches here we don't need to worry about other than maybe our taxi lights. And our radio, we're not going to use our radio section here. We're just going to assume we have clearance to do everything we want. Over here, we have our fuel shutoff valve. So we're going to turn that on. We're going to want to make sure our left main tank is selected. And the reason for that is both the wing tanks are full, and the carburetor has overflow that leaks into the left tank. So if the left tank is full and the carburetor's overflowing into it, you're going to basically spill gas everywhere. So we're going to have the left tank as our primary tank, so we start to lose fuel in that. So if there is overflow, it's fine, basically. So that's kind of the gist of the overview of the cockpit. We'll go through right now and do startup procedures and getting your cockpit set up. So first thing we want to do, and I have a button for this, we're going to put the flaps all the way up. We're going to put the carb heat all the way up, as well as the ram air all the way up. We're going to set the rudder to 7 degrees right. So about there or so. And that's because of the prop turning clockwise. Our plane is going to want to go counterclockwise, so we're going to basically combat that. Then we're going to set our trim for takeoff, which is about there. And we don't have any stores or anything for asymmetrical, so we're going to leave the aileron trim centered. Okay, and then for our throttle, we're going to put about 1 inch in. Uh-oh. I got to fix that. I got a axis on my throttle. Okay, we're going to leave that there. Okay, then our propeller RPM, we're going to put all the way up to just about full, like that. We're going to leave our mixture to off, idle cutoff. We're going to come up here, turn on our fuel booster, flip the starter switch up, prime the engine for about 5-6 seconds or so, just to get some fuel in the engine. And we're going to actually set the parking brake. Okay, so parking brake is set now. So when the propellers start going, we don't start going with them. All right. Then we're going to start the engine. Flick the magnetos over and put it in run. So both magnetos are running, and we got our mixture set to run. And we are started. So that's the startup procedure. So what I was saying before with this little handle and those doors on the bottom, if we go back out, you see the doors are down. As we introduce pressure in the hydraulic system, you'll see they come up, right? Makes sense. The reason we want no hydraulic pressure right now is if we accidentally put the gear up, the gear will actually come up, even though we're on the ground. So there's no weight on wheel safety lock. So we're going to leave that off for right now because I got to put the flaps up. Apparently they didn't come all the way up. Oh, we can't because there's no pressure. Right. No. Yeah, well, we're going to add the pressure. Make sure both sides of the flaps are coming up. Which they are. We'll make sure the control surfaces work. Okay. That looks good. So at this point, we're just kind of waiting for the engine to warm up. And our RPMs are a little high for that, so we'll drop that down to about 1,000 RPMs. Right there. And we're just kind of waiting for everything to get toasty and warm and ready to go. With that, we'll close the starter. So we're started up. We're ready to taxi. A few things about taxiing. Because it's a tail dragger, that rear wheel only moves a certain number of degrees. I don't know, it's 7 something degrees when locked, 15 degrees when unlocked, and free, or like, so how do we lock and unlock the rear wheel? That all comes down to this right here. If we pull all the way back, I don't know if you can hear the click, but that locks the rear wheel to straight. If we have it in the center, there's about a 15-degree turn on it, and you'll hear this. That's free caster, so it'll go anyway. So it's really easy to spin this thing out of control and do donuts in this condition. So we got to be careful. So with that, things are kind of warming up. We got our carb heats in the green. Our coolant temperature is about 80, so we're good. We're ready to start taxiing. Normally we request access or request permission to do so, but so we'll just release the parking brake, add a little RPMs to get moving, and kind of cut back on the throttle. And now we're going to use our rudder to turn, unlock the wheel casting, or the rear wheel, lock it, left brake. It's like there's so much. I don't even know how, I can't even talk and do this at the same time. I'm not that good. So I'm going to unlock to prepare for the turn here. I'm starting to turn. I'm going to... Whoa. Okay. And a little bit more. So it's unlocked. Locking it. And a little left brake. Just a tap of the left brake to stop it from turning. So because we're tail dragger, I'm going to kind of go left and right down the runway or the taxiway here, just so I can make sure I'm not going to hit anyone. And it doesn't look like we're going to, so it's just us at the airport today. Now, one thing you don't want to do is overbrake. You'll have a tendency to put the front end or the back end up, the front end down, and have the propellers hit the ground. That would be a very, very bad day. Okay, so we're ready to get on the runway. We're just going to do a quick run-up test. Get this to about manifold about 30 inches. And just make sure all of our pressure gauges and temp gauges don't go crazy. Looks good. We could do a magneto test as well. We should do a magneto test, but we're not going to. We're going to try to close this canopy. Okay, canopy is closed. Let's try to take off. So as we're going through here, we're just making sure everything's good. Flaps are up for takeoff. Okay. And this is where I get really bad. Okay, so we got about 7 degrees, 7 degrees on the rudder trim. Elevator trim is set for takeoff. And we're going to lock the rear caster. We're going to slowly start to add some RPMs and throttle to get the manifold pressure up to start accelerating. Make sure the fuel booster is on. It is. Magnetos are good. Everything looks good. Fuel's good. All right, let's we're up. Gear up. You can see the orange light down there telling me the gear is going up. Gear is up and locked, so we're in a safe position. Now we're slipping to the left, so we need a little left rudder. But we put right rudder trim in, so I'm going to try to get rid of that. The axis I have is very touchy. Okay, so I think we're gonna fly off to that island over there and land there. And as we're climbing, we want, and I'm looking at my notes, sorry. I lost my notes. But the manifold pressure, we want it to be about 46. So we're going to reduce the throttle to get to 46. And our RPMs, we're going to reduce the RPMs to about there for a climb. And we'll climb to about 5,000 feet. And I'm trimming my aircraft with my elevator trim and aileron trims just to keep it level and increasing. So anytime you make power adjustments, we're going to want to retrim about 2,500 feet. Just getting a good sight picture for our climb here and trying to maintain that. You can also look at our VSI. Checking the altitude, about 4,900 or 3,900 or 2,900, about 3,000 feet, and climbing. Slipping a little to the left, so I'm going to add a little left trim, rudder trim. And notice I did keep the whatever, I can't remember what this is called, this gauge caged. If you're going to do rolls, which after we get up to about 5,000 feet I'll do some rolls, you're going to want to cage it so you don't break it. Alright, we're starting to overheat a little bit, so I'm going to reduce our RPMs and manifold a little bit. Coming up on 4,500 feet. Coolant temperature is good. Carb temp is good. And it's just our oil temp is not good. So we're coming up on 5,000 feet, so I'm going to slow our climb here. And come to a cruising RPM of about 2,400 and bring our manifold pressure into the green. And you can start to see the temp is coming back down. We're good there. So we're about 5,000 feet. I'm going to trim for this speed now. VSI looks pretty good, and we're just cruising now. Current speed about 275 knots, or miles per hour actually. It's a glorious day in the Pacific Islands of Guam. And if you're curious, we took off from Andersen Air Force Base in Guam, and we're going to be landing at that island, which I don't know the actual name of. Everything else is in the green. We're good to go. We're flying. So let's do a roll. Oof. That's kind of fun in the VR, not gonna lie. We did lose some altitude there though, holy cow. Alright, let's get back up to 5,000. Let's try that again without losing so much altitude. Calm day. Let's put the mirror up. Hello. Alright, let's try that roll again. Alright, 200 feet lost. Not bad. Alright, so I can kind of make out the airfield at this point. Let's go bring ourselves down to about 3,000 feet, so we'll decrease our manifold pressure a little bit here. Get rid of the slippage. And kind of nose down a little bit. Headset power is low. My VR is about to die. Hopefully we can make the landing before that happens. So I don't know if you guys can make it out on the channel or not, but there is the airfield. It's basically 270-degree runway here. I actually don't know the runway number. We could do a flyby, but that's okay. We're just gonna fly straight in. So with the manifold pressure down, and our speed or descent at about 2,000 feet per minute, we're maintaining our speed of about 200 miles per hour, which is good. And as soon as I level off, we'll start to slow down for landing. When we get to landing gears down at 170, flaps at 165, we'll do that. So let's go ahead and start leveling off now. I never did turn off the fuel booster, but we would be turning it on at this point. So we'll put the gears down, and our speed is, looks like 150. So we can put our flaps all the way down too. And now we don't want it to descend too fast, so I'm going to add a little bit more throttle to get our manifold pressure up a little bit. Trying to trim, which is hard to do on a joystick when you don't feel the controls. Whoa. About 120 miles per hour. It's good landing speed. See the runway pretty clearly now. When you touch down with the Mustang, you really kind of want to touch down on all three wheels at once to avoid bouncing on the runway. But you'll soon find out I am not that good. About 500 feet above the ground. Bounce. Okay, one bounce isn't terrible. Now lock the rear wheel by pulling back on the stick, and you want to make sure your flaps come up right away too. And no braking. No braking. At this speed, if you hit the brakes, your front end will come down and the propellers will smash into the ground. So we're just going to kind of ride her out. I'm going to kind of, I don't know where the end of the runway is because I can't see it, so I'm going to come off to the right a little bit. And there's the end. And it looks clear all the way there. Stick my head out the window now, that's cool. So I got the stick in neutral at this point, and to get that 15-degree arc on the casters, on the rear caster. And then when we get to the end, we'll try to not spin it out. You'll notice the pressure, oil temp is right almost on the edge of the green there. It's because I didn't open up those for the landing. Alright, so rear caster unlocked. Whoa. A little bit of a overturn there. Just kind of playing around with taxiing at this point. Alright, this looks like a great place to shut it down, right in the middle of the runway. So we'll slowly add some brakes. Come to a stop, add a little throttle. and put the mixture in cutoff. Fuel off, fuel booster off, lights off. And don't forget to release the pressure. So if you accidentally pull on the gear handle, there's no pressure for it to do it. And then we'll put these back and set the trim back to 0, 0. Good, good. I think that was how everything was when we got it. So slowly the flaps will start to, without the pressure, will start to come down. You see the doors open, and there I am. Awesome. I'm going to have to figure out how to stop recording this. Oh, there we go.